of 2 million rupees for information leading to the terrorists.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky...
U.S. President Donald Trump says he thinks Russia has agreed to a deal to end the conflict in Ukraine. Says he found it harder than expected to work with Ukrainian President Zelensky. Ukrainian authorities report major missile attack on capital Kyiv. City's mayor says at least 2 killed and dozens injured in the attack by Russian missiles. The United States continues to target Houthi rebels in Yemen. Central Command shares footage showing operations from USS Carl Vinson and Harry S. Truman. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent states that the current high tariffs between the U.S. and China are unsustainable. This comes as Trump expressed openness to de-escalating the trade war. Real Madrid earned a nervy 1-0 win at Getafe in Spanish La Liga. The victory keeps their title hopes alive and left them 4 points behind leaders Barcelona. And India has hit Pakistan with strong measures as it began its response to the gruesome terror attack in Pahalgam that killed 26 civilians. Now, the Indus River Treaty has been suspended. Pakistani citizens have been barred from entering India. The Cabinet Committee on Security decided to act after the cross-border link of the attack was brought out.
The Indus Waters Treaty of 1960 will be held in abeyance with immediate effect until Pakistan credibly and irrevocably abjures its support for cross-border terrorism. 2. The integrated checkpost Atari will be closed with immediate effect. Those who have crossed over with valid endorsements may return through that route before 1 May 2025.
India's diplomatic crackdown involves a series of measures. India has put the Indus Water Treaty with Pakistan on hold. It has shut the Atari checkpost for all cross-border movement. New Delhi has suspended SAARC visa travel privileges for Pakistani nationals. All Pakistani citizens currently in India are under the SAARC framework have been given 48 hours to leave the country. Moreover, India has tightened the diplomatic channels. It has expelled all Pakistani military advisors posted in its high commissions in India. Now, the overall strength of the respective high commissions will be brought down to 30. These measures aim to tighten the screws on Pakistan and isolate Pakistan internationally. The Cabinet Committee on Security, led by Prime Minister Modi, met for over 2 hours in New Delhi on Wednesday. The top Indian leadership, the Defense Minister, the Home Minister, the Finance Minister, the Foreign Minister, as well as the National Security Advisor were present. The cross-border linkages of the terrorist attack were discussed in the briefing. It was also noted that this attack came in the wake of the successful elections in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan government has also called an emergency meeting of the country's National Security Committee. The committee, composed of senior civil and military officials, will meet today. Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif said the agenda of the meeting will be to carve out Pakistan's response to India's diplomatic crackdown. Well, as both countries come face to face in the diplomatic arena, India has also ordered its military forces on the border to remain vigilant.
CCS reviewed the overall security situation and directed all forces to maintain high vigil. It resolved that the perpetrators of this attack will be brought to justice and their sponsors held to account. As with the recent extradition of Tahawur Rana, India will be unrelenting in the pursuit of those who have committed acts of terror or conspired to make them possible. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, a manhunt of the kind not seen before in Jammu and Kashmir is underway. Helicopters and drones are in operation. Indian security forces, the army, BSF commandos, J&K police and others are searching for the men who perpetrated the attack. The police in Anantnag has announced a cash reward of 20 lakh rupees for any information that could lead to the terrorists. And WION's assistant editor for foreign affairs, Siddhant Sibal, is joining us on the phone line from New Delhi. Siddhant, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, we know that these are the actions that India has taken. What is the latest that you can bring in on this?
Well, today two things are going to happen. First of all, the all-party meeting is going to happen. It is a political messaging as well. It will be led by the Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, and essentially this meeting will perhaps form a common consensus on the issue of terrorism emanating from Pakistan. The second, of course, is the issue of the Pakistani action. Pakistan is going to hold an important security meeting later today, and it could announce retaliatory measures. But essentially, Pakistan has nothing much to do right now. Of course, India is reducing the number of diplomats in the missions, but that's an important messaging in terms of how India is cutting down or scaling down relationships. Pakistanis have been asked to leave the countries as well. The Pakistani diplomats, the military diplomats, have been asked to leave the country as well. So, essentially, these two things are being developed right now, and it looks like it's going to play for next few days and weeks.
Right, Siddhant, just coming to that and to expand on that a little further, what sort of other measures or countermeasures are we likely to see in the days to come? Because essentially with this, it's an attempt at isolating Pakistan and giving a strong response to the terror attack in Pahalgam.
Well, yes, the first of the round of action has been taken by the Indian government. I do expect second round. Will there be a corrective action? Will there be a military action? Is something that one will be closely watching. Last time, after the Pulwama terror attack, there were strikes by the Indian side in Balafort. Will Indian side take a military option? That is something that nobody will know. But it looks like, as the Indian Defence Minister said, all options are on the table.
All right. Well, Siddhant, of course, there'll be lots more to discuss in the course of the day. Thank you so much for bringing us all these updates for now. Now, the attack in Pahalgam is different from the past terror attacks. This time, Pakistan-backed and trained terrorists targeted innocent civilian tourists. Now, India has vowed a loud and clear response to Kashmir attack. And now our next story is about the sinister plot which led to the massacre of 26 tourists in Jammu and Kashmir. Here's a report.
She sits alone in the open meadows of Pahalgam. The silence around her shattered by the thunder of gunfire only minutes ago. Her husband, Lieutenant Vinay Narwal, a Navy officer's lifeless body lay beside her. They were on a honeymoon which turned into a nightmare. Blood staining the grass that was once the pride of Kashmir. The heart-wrenching silence echoes through the valley. This is Kashmir, heaven on earth, turned hell by Pakistan's radical Islamist terrorists.
यहाँ पर थी, क्या बोलते, भेलपुरी खाली थी, मेरा पति साइड में था, एक इंसान आया, उसने उसको गोली मार दी। यहाँ पे उसने बोला कि शायद मुस्लिम नहीं है, उसने उसको गोली मार दी।
The attackers came without warning. They singled out the men, calmly, methodically. What's your name? What's your religion? Recite the kalma. Then, with cold-blooded precision, they were shot point blank.
जैसे निकल ही रहे थे तो वहाँ पे दरवाज़ा निकलने का बहुत छोटा सा था और पब्लिक बहुत थी, तो हम जैसे निकले, मैंने मिसेस को आगे निकाला, घोड़े में वहाँ पे कीचड़ दी और पीछे से गोलियाँ कंटिन्यू चलने लगी बहुत, तो पब्लिक एकदम से बहुत आई और पब्लिक ने हमको धक्का दी, तो मैंने मिसेस को तो बाहर निकाल दिया था, मेरा बेटा फंस गया था, फिर हमने उसको भी निकाले.
Manjunath and Pallavi came to enjoy the scenic beauty of Kashmir.
अब हम शिकारा राइड कर रहे हैं.
शिकारा राइड कर रहे हैं कश्मीर में.
शिकारा राइड करवा रहे हैं मोहम्मद रफीक जी.
The husbands were brutally murdered by terrorists.
ऐसे लग रहा था कि बस अभी 1 मिनट के अंदर अगर नहीं पहुंचते तो हम भी अभी यहाँ पे नहीं होते थे. गेट के बिल्कुल लोग दौड़ रहे थे पीछे से, तो हम उनको देख के सीधा कूद गए और वहाँ पे जहाँ पे पानी या घोड़े चलते हैं ना, इतनी गैप भी थी, वहाँ पे हम कूद गए.
These were tourists, not soldiers. People who came with their families to enjoy the snow, the chinars and the meadows. They had no weapons. They posed no threat. But to the terrorists trained and funded by Pakistan, they were targets in a war against India, a war soaked in religious hate and jihadist ideology.
So this very clearly shows that this particular attack was timed in a particular manner. The manner in which the tourists were targeted after identifying them, after identifying their faith, shows that the aim was to create a communal divide and accentuate it. They probably wanted a reaction from rest of India.
The massacre in Pahalgam is a message, a calculated attempt to derail Kashmir's return to peace. In 2024, over 3.5 million tourists visited the valley, breathing life into an economy crippled by decades of terror. Hotels were full, shikaras were busy, children were laughing again. That is precisely what Pakistan cannot tolerate.
The dead bodies of those who were killed yesterday in the Baisaran attack are being taken from the police control room. As you can see in your visuals, the ambulances are now finally leaving the police control room for the Srinagar International Airport, where they'll be sent across to their resident states along with their families. As you see, these are the buses that carry the relatives and the family members of those who were killed in the Baisaran yesterday.
The success of a peaceful Kashmir is the failure of Pakistan's jihadist project. So the terrorists belonging to TRF, an offshoot of LET, struck not at soldiers or security forces, but at civilians, at families, at innocence itself. And once again, the soil of Kashmir turned red.
Well, at least 2 people have been killed and 54 wounded in a missile attack on Kiev.
Now, the city mayor in a post on Telegram said that the Ukrainian capital is being targeted by Russian missiles.
Damage has been reported in at least 2 districts, and residents have been called on to take shelter. Flights of drones and loud explosions could be heard across the capital. In a bomb shelter set up in a basement of a residential building, over a dozen residents gathered after the air alert started.
City mayor said 6 children, including a 3-year-old child, are among those injured in the attack. Kyiv was last hit by missiles on the 5th of April, when at least 3 people were wounded. In Ukraine's east, the city of Kharkiv was hit by 7 missiles.
Now, furthermore, U.S. President Donald Trump has lashed out at Zelensky, blaming the Ukrainian president's refusal to accept Russian occupation of Crimea for failure to end the war. Now, Trump said a deal was very close and effectively closed with Moscow, but Zelensky was proving harder to negotiate with.
But I will say that I think Russia is ready, and a lot of people said Russia wanted to go for the whole thing. And I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far it's been harder, but that's okay. It's all right. But I think we have a deal with both. I hope they do it because I'm looking to say.
Now, he added the Ukrainian president's refusal to accept U.S. terms for ending the conflict will do nothing but prolong the killing field.
Now, ahead of Trump's broadside, Vice President J.D. Vance laid out the U.S. vision for a peace deal where Russia would get to keep already occupied swathes of Ukraine, which include Crimea. Zelensky has rejected this as a violation of Ukraine's constitution.
This in turn prompted an outburst from Trump in which he accused Zelensky of being inflammatory and taking a position very harmful to the peace negotiations with Russia. Trump wrote on Truth Social, Zelensky can have peace or he can fight for another 3 years before losing the whole country. Trump said Crimea was lost years ago and is not even a point of discussion. The White House said that the U.S. president is frustrated with the pace of the peace talks on ending this war, and President Vladimir Zelensky is going in the wrong direction when it comes to negotiations.
The president's frustrated. His patience is running very thin. He wants to do what's right for the world. He wants to see peace. He wants to see the killing stopped. But you need both sides of the war willing to do that. And unfortunately, President Zelensky seems to be moving in the wrong direction.
Zelensky responded by posting on social media a 2018 Crimea declaration by Trump's then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, which said, Washington rejects Russia's attempted annexation of Crimea. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian president arrived in South Africa on Wednesday evening, where he is expected to meet international leaders as peace talks with Russia are being brokered by the United States.
And Israeli settlers have renewed attacks in the occupied West Bank. Palestinian residents say Israelis attacked infrastructure and stole livestock in the West Bank.
And while damaged structures and smoke can be seen in the village of Sinju, which residents said were the result of a second attack in 2 days by settlers.
Israeli soldiers dispersed Palestinians in Sinjil after locals accused settlers of targeting properties in villages. According to the Sinjil mayor, a number of homes were burned by the settlers.
2 days ago, the settlers came to this area, clashes happened, and they burned a tent that belongs to our Bedouin neighbor and took around 50 sheep from him. Today was the same. They came to the same area and left from down there. They all covered their faces like mafia. They came, as you can see, and burned my place, damaged it and the water tanks.
In the north of the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces have set up barriers at several entrances of the Jenin camp. No barriers could have any impact on us as long as we believe in God and homeland. And this has been said by one Palestinian woman as she reacts to the military operation.
Tens of thousands of Palestinians have been displaced from the northern West Bank since Israel launched the offensive dubbed Iron Wall on the 21st of January in the area. Meanwhile, in Gaza, Hamas has released a video of Israeli hostage Omri Miran, the second since he was taken hostage on the 7th of October 2023.
In the video, 48-year-old Miran said he had spent two birthdays in captivity. His family has said in a written statement that on the eve of Holocaust Remembrance Day, an Israeli citizen is crying out for help from Hamas tunnel, and it is a moral failure for Israel.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has urged Hamas to free all hostages, saying keeping them has provided Israel with excuses to attack Gaza. Calling Hamas militants sons of dogs, Abbas asked them to hand over the hostages and get them out of this ordeal.
A Hamas official, Bassem Naim, has called his remarks insulting. Abbas's statement came as the rescuers recovered charred bodies from an Israeli strike. Israeli attacks killed at least 25 people across the besieged territory, while Germany, France, and Britain urged Israel to end its aid blockade.
As Israel builds up pressure on Hamas to secure the return of the hostages, Israelis gathered at Tel Aviv's Hosted Square to mark Holocaust Remembrance Day. The testimonies of Holocaust survivors and families of Israeli hostages held in Gaza were shared at the event.
Silence 3! Stop the violence now, 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 1! We are the people 2! I believe that we will win! I believe that we will win! I believe that we will win!
Now, pro-Palestinian protesters gathered at Yale University to protest a visit by Israel's Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. According to reports, about 200 demonstrators gathered and 8 tents were erected. It was reported that the protest encampment disbanded before midnight, with another protest expected the next night.
Silence 3! Stop the violence now, 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 1!
And U.S. President's deportation plan is facing strong pushback from the judiciary.
Several cases have been filed against President Trump's deportation orders. The president has now urged the judiciary for cooperation.
We're getting them out, and I hope we get cooperation from the courts because, you know, we have thousands of people that are ready to go out, and you can't have a trial for all of these people. It wasn't meant, the system wasn't meant, and we don't think there's anything that says that, look, we are getting some very bad people, killers, murderers, drug dealers, really bad people.
This comes after the U.S. Supreme Court issued an emergency order blocking the Trump administration from deporting Venezuelan gang members. The court also ruled that every individual facing deportation must undergo due process before any final removal.
The Trump administration has invoked a wartime law to carry out deportations. The law is known as the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. It grants the U.S. president the power to deport foreign nationals without a trial. But there's a caveat. This act only applies to foreign nationals from countries with which the United States is at war.
Now, this has landed Trump's deportation orders in legal trouble across the country. Cases have been filed in Washington, D.C., Texas, New York, Colorado, and Maryland. In multiple cases, courts have blocked deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. In one particular case, the deportation of a man named Kemal Abrego Garcia to El Salvador was ruled illegal, and a Maryland court ordered the U.S. government to facilitate his return.
Trump's clash with the judiciary is not sitting well with the public either. In a recent Reuters Ipsos poll, 83% of over 4,000 respondents said the U.S. president must obey federal court rulings, even if he disagrees with them. Now, the body of Pope Francis was carried in a solemn procession from his residence to St. Peter's Basilica.
The 88-year-old pontiff passed away 2 days ago after suffering a stroke.
Now, red-hatted cardinals, priests and Swiss guards escorted his open coffin as the choir chanted psalms in Latin and bells tolled across the basilica.
And we were meant to have an audience with him today, and we will do, but not in the way that we expected.
A crowd of thousands applauded as the coffin crossed St. Peter's Square, a deep Italian sign of respect. Now, the Pope's body will lie in a state until Friday evening. giving faithful a chance to pay their final respects. Security has been tightened around the Vatican ahead of his funeral on 26th of April.
World leaders, including US President Donald Trump and representatives from across Europe and Latin America, are expected to attend as well.
Pope Francis made his last public appearance on Sunday, waving to pilgrims from his white Popemobile in St. Peter's Square. The world mourns a leader who touched millions in faith, humility, and hope.
All right, and with that, it's time now for a short break.
But before we go, here is a look at what's lined up for the other half. Among the 26 people killed in Jammu and Kashmir's pahalgam is a local Kashmiri man. The story of his sheer bravery in the face of terror is warming hearts amid tragedy. We'll tell you more about him after the break.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Catch me on Token Money Magnet as I demystify tokenization for you, only on WION.
Hello and welcome back. You're watching Beyond World is One, and this is World DNA with me, Josta Kumar, and my colleague Him Saroya. Let's begin with the headlines.
India suspends Indus Water Treaty with Pakistan, bars entry of Pakistani nationals, and shuts down the Atari-Wagah border crossing as part of its countermeasures in response to the Pahalgam attack.
India's security forces launch massive manhunt in Jammu and Kashmir for the killers of Pahalgam attack. Anantnag police announced cash reward of 2 million rupees for information leading to terrorists.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky.
US President Donald Trump says he thinks Russia has agreed to a deal to end the conflict in Ukraine, says he found it harder than expected to work with the Ukrainian leader.
Ukrainian authorities report major missile attack on capital Kiev. City's mayor says at least 2 killed and dozens injured in attack by Russian missiles.
United States continues to target Houthi rebels in Yemen. Central Command shares footage showing operations from USS Carl Vinson and Harry S. Truman.
The U.S.-China trade conflict continues to impact Boeing, a key exporter. CEO Kelly Ortberg confirms that China has halted new delivery orders.
Real Madrid earn a nervy 1-0 win at Getafe in Spanish La Liga. The victory keeps their title hopes alive and left them 4 points behind leaders Barcelona. Now, families of those killed in the terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam are mourning their loss.
26 people, including a foreigner, were killed in the attack that unfolded at a popular tourist destination in Pahalgam, the worst assault on civilians in the valley in years.
Now, Delhi's IGI airport witnessed an emotional outpouring as Lieutenant Vinay Narwal's mortal remains arrived. He was on a honeymoon with his wife Himanshi Narwal when his life was cut short by the terrorists.
Many, including Navy Chief Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi, paid their last respects at a solemn wreath-laying ceremony that was conducted at the airport before his remains were flown to Haryana's Karnal. Himanshi, the wife of the officer, wept inconsolably as she bid farewell to her husband.
A somber atmosphere gripped Karnataka as the bodies of the two victims, Manjunath Rao, who was a real estate businessman, and Bharat Bhushan, an engineer, arrived at the Bengaluru airport. Their families arrived to receive their mortal remains.
Similar scenes of grief unfolded in Andhra Pradesh. The state mourned the loss of J. Chandramouli, a retired banker who was among those killed in Pahalgam. Chandramouli tried to flee, but the terrorists chased and shot him dead. Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu paid tribute to the mortal remains of Chandramouli and arrived at Vizag Airport on Wednesday.
3 people from West Bengal, Bitan Adhikari, Samir Guha, Manish Ranjan Mishra, lost their lives in the terror attack. As the mortal remains of the victims reached their homes in Kolkata, scenes of grief played out.
In Maharashtra's Raigad district, last rites of Dilip Desale, another victim of the attack, were performed at his native place in Panvel. Besides Dilip Desale, Panvel lost another son, Sanjay Lakshman, to the attack.
Now, similar scenes were witnessed in Pune as bodies of the victims arrived at the airport. In total, 6 from the state died in the attack.
Now, when Pahalgam's terror attack unfolded on Tuesday, India and the world described the assault on innocent tourists. They have decried it. And now, but among the 26 killed is a local Kashmiri man whose story of sheer bravery in the face of terror is warming hearts amid the tragedy.
Syed Adil Hussain Shah was killed while trying to fight one of the terrorists in Pahalgam. A horse rider and operator, who was the sole bread earner of his family, displayed extraordinary courage while trying to save tourists during the attack, when terrorists started raining gunshots.
Adil Hussain Shah tried to grab hold of the terrorist's rifle to protect the tourists he brought on his horse. The Kashmiri left behind grieving elderly parents, his wife and children.
एक ही सहारा था, यही कमाने वाला था।
एक बच्चा कमाए वाला से कुछ तो बड़ा ही यहाँ से हाय अल्लाह के कर सोन के कर सो खुदाया।
Now, hundreds came to pay respect during Adil's last rites. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah also attended the funeral and promised that the government will look after the Braveheart's family.
Now, in the aftermath of the terror attack, thousands of Kashmiris have come out on the streets condemning the attack and demanding justice. Many, including top leaders of the Union Territory, have called the assault an attack not just on the region but on Kashmir, a word that locals proudly use to refer warm, welcoming sentiments of people from Jammu and Kashmir.
The terror attack saw a swathe of reactions and implications. Locals shut down businesses in protest. Authorities ramped up security in the region. Hotels in the region were seeing large-scale cancellations. Locals are sending out a message to the rest of India, urging them to not cancel their visit. Kashmiris told WION special correspondent Idris Lone that tourism cancellations will mean a victory for terrorists and their ideology.
Since yesterday, we have seen on internet and on different media channels that people are planning to cancel their trips to Kashmir Valley, and people who are already in Kashmir Valley are planning to cut short their trips and go back to their particular states. But the message is that if we are not standing together in this point of time, it will be a win for terrorism. It will be a win for their ideology, which they wanted to do. And we as a nation should stand together. And people from Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Karnataka, South India, East India, West India, everyone should come forward and support Kashmiri people at this point of time and send a very strong message against terrorism, because if we talk about Kashmir, we have been standing against terrorism in the past, in the present, and we will continue to doing so in the future as well. So an important message: please don't cancel your trips. It will be a win for terrorism. We have to curb the menace of terrorism, and by standing together in this situation, we will send a very strong message from Kashmir against the terrorism.
Now, on April 22nd, terror returned to the Kashmir Valley.
The valley witnessed the deadliest attack in Jammu and Kashmir since the Pulwama strike in 2019. The victims had come seeking peace and beauty, but instead found chaos. Within hours, major travel agencies in Delhi reported a flood of cancellations. Swan Travelers, Kusha Travels and others say nearly 90% of the bookings for Kashmir were called off. Most were for the months of May and June, traditionally the peak tourism season in the region.
Now, the timing couldn't be worse. Kashmir had just seen a historic tourism revival. In 2024 alone, 23 million tourists visited Jammu and Kashmir, its highest ever. The sector now contributes 8.47% to region's gross domestic product, and according to the Economic Survey 2024 to 2025.
Now, tourism wasn't just symbolic. It was survival for some shikara operations and hotel owners to handicraft vendors and taxi drivers. The ecosystem was thriving. In Srinagar's Tulip Garden alone, over 8.14 lakh people visited in just the first 26 days of its opening this March, including 3,000 foreign tourists. Now, travel agencies are issuing refunds. Hotels are reporting empty rooms, and bookings to even safer destinations like Katra have been halted. Now, some families had invested heavily, taking loans post-COVID to expand their services for the booming market. Now they're facing crippling losses.
This attack is not just a security incident, it's a branding crisis. Over the past 5 years, Kashmir was being repositioned from a conflict zone to a tourism and investment hub. Major initiatives included a 1,000 crore rupee infrastructure boost, hosting of the G20 Tourism Working Group in Srinagar, and promotional events like Khelo India Winter Games in Gulmarg. Even foreign investors like UAE-based Lulu Group entered the region. Luxury hotels are expanding, and once inaccessible areas like Gurez and Kairan were seeing tourists. But that fragile progress is now under threat.
With mass cancellations, global travel advisories may follow. And unless there is a swift and strategic response through security assurances, economic relief, and reputation rebuilding, the valley risks slipping back into shadows it had almost escaped.
Locals are now urging, don't let terrorists win, but the road back to peace and prosperity just got longer.
Now, a staple of Thai life, a pillar of its economy, is under threat. As U.S. trade tariffs loom and global rice prices plunge, Thailand's multi-billion-dollar rice industry faces its toughest season in years.
Thailand's rice industry, valued at over $6.82 billion in 2024, is facing mounting pressure. The United States is Thailand's third largest rice buyer by volume and its most lucrative market. But proposed U.S. tariffs could severely impact this trade. On the ground, small-scale farmers are already struggling. Global rice prices have fallen sharply since India resumed exports in late 2024, triggering a 30% drop in Thai domestic prices. Meanwhile, local costs, including fertilizer and land rent, continue to rise. With little margin left, many Thai farmers say they cannot cut prices further to compete with cheaper Vietnamese rice, which benefits from lower input costs and more frequent harvests.
The problem is that the price of rice is very low, while other costs such as fertilizers and farmland rent are higher. There is an imbalance, and I'm losing money.
In response to the looming U.S. tariffs, the Thai government is offering concessions, such as slashing tariffs on U.S. corn from 73% to 0%. But this could have unintended consequences. Industry groups warn that a surge in cheap corn imports can depress the price of rice byproducts like broken rice and rice bran used in animal feed.
If the U.S. imposes high tariffs on us, our jasmine rice will be too expensive to compete. Suppose if they impose 30% tariffs at $1,000 per metric ton, the price would rise to about $1,300. This is a very high price. Meanwhile, as we don't know how Vietnam would be able to negotiate theirs, and the Vietnamese jasmine rice price is at $580 per metric ton. No matter how much they manage to bring the tariffs down, or even if they get like 40%, there is still a considerable gap between our price and their prices given our higher base price.
Now, Sri Lanka's economy is showing signs of life after its worst financial crisis in history.
But the World Bank warns that behind the numbers, millions are still suffering. A new report says that while the country has started to recover, nearly 1 in 4 Sri Lankans still remain trapped in poverty.
In 2024, the South Asian country recorded a 5% growth, marking Sri Lanka's first year of economic expansion since the devastating 2022 debt default. Despite the rebound, over 24.5% of the country's population is still living in poverty, surviving on less than $3.65 a day. Job opportunities are scarce, forcing many to seek work overseas.
The World Bank projects that growth could moderate in 2025. to 3.5%, partly due to global trade uncertainties triggered by the sharp increase in U.S. tariffs. Now, earlier this month, U.S. President Donald Trump announced a staggering 44% reciprocal tariffs on the island nation. The United States is Sri Lanka's largest single market, accounting for almost a quarter of its $12 billion in merchandise exports. The tariffs could hit key industries and plunge Sri Lanka into an economic crisis.
I would consider it serious because we are still at the tail end of the stabilization process, and our debt repayment will start in 2028, and the apparel industry, the rubber industry and some of the agricultural products were the main categories that we were looking for expanding. And out of our exports, about 20% to 25% is for the US markets. So at the early stages, having this impact of 44% tariff on most of these products is definitely going to impact the growth of those sectors so as for our exports, which will impact our dollar inflow. So I would rate it quite serious.
Now, Japan has revealed a powerful electromagnetic railgun designed to shoot down hypersonic missiles.
Particularly those fired by China, this high-tech weapon recently appeared during advanced testing aboard the JS Asuka warship. Tokyo is ramping up its naval defense at a time when tensions across the Indo-Pacific are growing. Unlike traditional guns, this railgun does not rely on gunpowder or explosives.
Now, it uses electromagnetic energy to launch metal missiles at higher speeds. Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force believes the system will upgrade its naval shield, further claiming that the railgun can target threats from the air, sea, or land with higher accuracy than conventional weapons. Tokyo reportedly began manufacturing this weapon in 2016 and fired it from a ship for the first time in late 2023. The Japanese Navy says the system will play a vital role in future combat scenarios and help fill critical gaps in missile interception capabilities. In fact, back in 2022, Japan admitted it only had 60% of the interceptor missiles it needed. Washington has also attempted to develop its own railgun, spending over $500 million into its railgun program before scrapping it in 2021 due to technical setbacks like overheating and extreme power demands. But the race did not end there. China has been quietly advancing its own version. In 2018, satellite images show a Chinese landing ship outfitted with a prototype railgun. India, Russia and Turkey have also tested their own version of this weapon. The battlefield of the future is taking shape now, and Japan is showing the world it is preparing for it.
Now, social media was abuzz on Wednesday over claims of alleged match fixing.
Now, this comes after Ishan Kishan walked off thinking he'd edged Deepak Chahar's delivery to wicket-keeper. It was one of the most bizarre moments in the history of the tournament.
Now, here's exactly what happened. The incident took place on the first ball of the third over in the match between Sunrisers Hyderabad and Mumbai Indians. Chahar bowled it down the leg side and Kishan tried to flick it towards the fine leg. He didn't get a proper connection, but Mumbai's wicketkeeper Ryan Rickleton caught the ball anyway. Neither Chahar nor Rickleton appealed, and the umpire was about to signal it as a wide. But when he saw Kishan walking off, he raised his finger after half-hearted appeal from Chahar.
The replays later showed the ball was very close to the bat, but there was no spike on the Snicko meter, which led to the question, why did the former Mumbai Indians player walk? Former India cricketer and current IPL commentator Navjot Singh Sidhu was among many who were left clueless after the incident. Well, it also triggered a social media frenzy, with many users questioning whether it was an instance of match fixing. Some even questioned the wicketkeeper's integrity, but Mumbai captain Hardik Pandya quickly ran towards Ishan to pat him on his back for a spirit of cricket act. All right, next up, let's get you the latest updates from the world of entertainment. Bella Ramsey, the acclaimed star of The Last of Us, is thrilled to be immortalized in wax at Madame Tussauds, London. The 21-year-old British actor expressed her initial surprise at the honor. Ramsey anticipates visitors might be surprised by the height of the figure. The wax statue is said to be unveiled in London later this year.
Carlos Santana has postponed a second Texas concert after testing positive for COVID-19. The guitar virtuoso's official Facebook page said he is scrubbing Thursday night's stop on his Oneness tour at Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land, Texas, and will rest at his hotel. He previously postponed a Tuesday night concert at the Majestic Theatre in San Antonio. His manager said the 77-year-old Santana was suffering from dehydration and later provided the update after the COVID diagnosis, saying the second show would be postponed out of caution. The tour, which began on the 16th of April in California, is expected to resume with a Friday night concert in Oklahoma. Now, the Entertainment Community Fund, an organization that addresses the need of people who work in performing arts, recently organized a star-studded gala. Take a look.
Tonight is our annual gala, the Entertainment Community Fund, where we raise a whole bunch of money because what we're doing is really trying to take care of our own in show business.
It's not about me, it's really about them and the work that they're doing. I'm here to celebrate them. I'm happy that they're giving me an award. It gives me a chance to say thank you.
The Entertainment Community Fund's work is vital because it's community forward, taking care of all of us. I love its name because it's intentional.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World DNA. News and updates will continue on the other side.
Before we wrap up, here's a look at all the climate stories making headlines across the world.
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. In a move to slash federal funding, the Trump administration plans to shut embassies in 8 African countries, including the Central African Republic, Congo, Eritrea, Gambia, Lesotho, and South Sudan. Somalia launches voter registration in the capital Mogadishu for the first time in over 50 years, a step towards universal suffrage ahead of presidential elections scheduled for 2026 in the volatile nation. And an autistic Nigerian teen artist wins the Guinness World Records for the largest artwork on canvas by an individual. Watch World of Africa at these times on WION, World is One.
Imagine a world where owning your dream asset is just a click away, where wealth is no longer exclusive to the few. Tokenization, the game changer, transforming assets into digital opportunities. A revolutionary technology opening doors to a new era of investment. Don't miss Token Money Magnet, a bold initiative by Kalp Foundation. Only on WION, World is One. To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Welcome back. You're watching WION, World is One. I'm Jyotsna Kumar. Let's begin with the headlines. Families across India mourn their loved ones as remains of those killed in the Pahalgam terror attack reach home. 26 people, including a foreigner, were killed in the attack.